everybody. It's Jeff Hopper and Jeff Cranford back together and talking about the life of the Apostle Paul. Last time we talked about the grip of sin, and today we're going to see one of the most significant ways to counter that, the most significant way, really, in Paul's mind for sure. Let me ask you a little bit. I mean, you are a good player. You have been a good player through the years and have accomplished a number of things competitively. And yet, even in a good player, you probably see things in your game that are weaker areas and other things you say, I am dead confident in this part right here.
Right.
What were those things that you always were most confident in your game?
Well, I think just driving the ball. I think I had kind of a low spin rate. I had a little bit of a path and face that matched and not as much down load. So I came a very flat angle, had a lot of upswing, produced less spin, a lot of side spin, and could create some speed, certainly as I was younger. So I hit the ball in the fairway a lot. I mean, didn't spray the ball all over the place. Having said that, giving those factors, I don't come in quite as steeply, don't have as much load, etc. You get in those middle upper irons, I was fairly weak and relative to my peers for sure. And so it was frustrating. And you see that even you'd have guys that drove the ball like Greg Norman, probably the greatest driver of the golf ball that's ever lived in terms of how far he hit it and his launch angle and all that. And yet you'd see him coming down the stretch like the Masters that Nicklaus won, I think it was '86, and he kind of sprays that iron way to the right. I mean, 20, 30 yards right of the green. And I remember a U.S. Open, the Corey Pavin one coming down, he was in contention, hit it in the bunker on a par 3. Not that he wasn't a great iron player, don't get me wrong, because he was phenomenal, but he was not Johnny Miller. And then you'd look at Johnny Miller, and Johnny Miller was probably the greatest iron player that's ever lived, and struggled with his putting, later in his career. So strengths and weaknesses, for sure.
Okay, strengths and weaknesses. I have found that I am, whatever I'm very confident in today.
That's right.
It's not it tomorrow.
That's true, too. That's true.
Yeah, that happens. Was there something about which Paul was dead confident when he wrote and taught others?
Yeah, I mean, Paul's confidence was in Christ. I mean, you see his letters. I'm doing a series on Ephesians right now, and you see this in Christ, in Christ, in Christ, in Christ, in Christ. Paul's confidence was Christ in him. It says to the Colossians, Christ in you is the hope of glory. Mm-hmm. So his confidence was in the grace that we have in Jesus. Ephesians 2, 8, 9. You've been saved by grace through faith, not of works, lest anybody start to brag about it, basically.
Right.
So we'd all brag. Look, if this is a religious exercise, I'd walk right off the set right here. I mean, a religious exercise? I mean, my confidence, Paul's confidence, I know your confidence, our confidence comes from Christ in us and his fullness in us.
And in the way we talk about it, if anyone would boast, let him boast in Christ.
Boast in the Lord.
So
That's right.
If you want to go out and, give your opinion on things, as we see so many people do now, they come off as very confident. And I don't feel that way, but I tell people all the time, if I do a teaching or something and somebody comes and says, man, that was really good, I say, it's really easy to teach the Bible.
Yeah,
Jeff. Because it's right there.
No, that's right. That's absolutely right. I think about when I started pre-Jesus, and even early days, I so valued my opinion. Mm. And I would say I'd give lip service to valuing Jesus' opinion, but how much did I value his opinion? How much time did I spend in the Word? Very little. As I've grown in Christ through grace, and my participation is the faith aspect of that, as I've grown, I value my opinion less and less and less, and I value his opinion. Now, if my opinion's based in his opinion, then I have great confidence in it. If my opinion is not based in it, I say, well, I have a thought, but I could change tomorrow. This is not changeable. God he doesn't change. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. You want to talk about steadiness? Jesus said, I'm the rock, build your house on this, not on sand. Look, my opinions, my ideas, my perceived strengths, they're sand. We see that in athletes. They just lose a step and nobody wants them anymore. They lose their contract. They're off the team, Golf, you just one shot around and you go from being winning millions of dollars on the tour to losing your card. It's just, we're that close away, but not here. This is so steady, so firm, so fixed. I don't know how people live without the King.
Yeah, and especially when you put these last couple of studies together, we're gripped by sin, and yet we are set free by this grace of God that buys our salvation.
Yeah.
Well, we hope that this means great things to you, because there is nothing that we can teach that's more important than what Paul considered most important, and that's the grace of God through Jesus Christ. We'll see you next time.